In 2015, the indie RPG Undertale was released. Just over 3 years later, on October 30th, 2018, its creator, Toby Fox, tweeted the following. "It's cold. It's as if everything had been enveloped in a black wind. You didn't realize it yet, but it seems that there's someone who wants to talk to you." Then, the Twitter account for Undertale went dark. A voice began speaking through it.
"Welcome. Have you been looking for me? How wonderful. I have been looking for you as well. I have something I want to show you. Something I think you will find very, very interesting. But it is not complete yet. No, it is far from complete. Thus, I have a small favor to ask of you. Return here in 24 hours. At that time, I will ask you a few questions. Then, using your responses, we will approach its realization. Thank you very much for your time. I will be in contact again soon."
This is Survey Program Podcast, music by Highwell. 24 hours later, more messages appeared.
"Thank you for waiting so long. After all, you and I, we have both been waiting such a very long time. So to be here, finally, on the verge of connection, is quite exciting. I look forward to creating a new future with you. Now, show yourself."
A link was posted to an ominous website where users could download an executable file called Only Survey Program. When players opened it, they were treated to a character creation sequence that led to Deltarune Chapter 1. The rest is history, and that history has been shared by so many of us, and over the years has inspired us to create, theorize, and enjoy Deltarune together. I asked for oral histories of the release of Chapter 1 in this period, and received many stories from folks recounting their experience on that fateful day. What follows are those stories. Some of these stories are quite personal and touch on delicate subjects, including suicide. Timestamps are in the description to skip between stories. Our first story is from Valerie.
So in the spring of 2018, in my junior year of college, I had a mental breakdown, and I was like, okay, I'm going to drop out for one semester of college, just one, and for the summer and the autumn, maybe longer, I'm going to go live in a rural northern Texan town of 1,800 people, where I went to high school, by the way, and I'm going to live in an abandoned hospital. So I went and I lived in an abandoned hospital, and I worked at a Dollar General in northern Texas. So I was working at the Dollar General, living in an abandoned hospital, working at the Dollar General on the day that Deltarune came out. And I wasn't really paying attention to the heraldry of it all. I was kind of lost in my own world, I could say. Generously, I had one friend, who I kind of lived with, and that's it. That's the only person I really knew, the only person I really talked to. I didn't really talk to anyone online. I was kind of unplugged from the world. And Deltarune came out in the middle of my shift, I think, if I remember correctly, at Dollar General. And I was like, oh my god, holy shit. Because 3 years earlier, Undertale came out and killed me, owned me. My freshman year of college, Undertale came out, autumn 2015, and I was like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm going to play this 4 times and never touch it again out of respect for the sanctity of this game. And yeah, so Deltarune came out. I was like, great, I can't wait to get home. Rushed home. I downloaded it. I was playing on a computer in like the furthest room of this hospital, abandoned hospital, half occupied, um, with like bloodstains on the wall and everything from like years since surgeries and everything. And I rushed to my computer, just literally a desk in the middle of an abandoned hospital room with a computer on it, and I hurried and I downloaded Undertale. I downloaded Survey Program, and wow, I loved it. I loved it so much. I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know anything at all, but I just knew that in that moment, in that abandoned hospital, in the in the surgery ward of an abandoned hospital in a shit ass fucking awful town in northern Texas, that it was going to be okay. That there was something so wonderful that I could just keep waiting for on the horizon, year after year. It really got me. It really got its hooks in me. And the funniest thing of all, I mean, you ask how did it affect your Halloween plans? And my God, dude, I had no Halloween plans whatsoever. I had nobody. I was at the liquor store at this place, the only liquor store in the fucking town, right by the Dairy Queen, which is like the only fast food restaurant in the town. And I was at this fucking liquor store, and the lady was like, "What are you doing Halloween night?" And I was like, "Nothing." And she was like, "Well, there's a party at the American Legion." And I was like, "No, no, man, I don't think I'll be interested in that, but thank you." But instead, I was playing Deltarune over and over. I could never beat Jevil, but God, man, I loved it. I changed my icon to rules card. I had just transitioned like a month before, or just started taking HRT like a month before. And I think in retrospect, there's a really beautiful kind of synchronicity between that moment of my life where I was in a tiny town all alone, just embarking on a great transgender journey, taking my first step all alone in the world. I think there was something really beautiful in the town that I gone to high school in as well, where I also felt so alone and so misunderstood. And at high school with the class size basically the same as in Deltarune, and I think in that space and time there was a beautiful, transcendent kind of synchronicity and the communication between myself and the game.
The next story is from Quiet.
My memory is blurry, but I'm pretty sure I didn't even play Deltarune on release day. I was in school at the time and dealing with a bunch, and it was really high on my list of priorities, but I just never did until probably days later. The day itself wasn't even particularly special. Not even sure if I knew about the release then, which is kind of crazy given how much Undertale has changed my life.
The next story is from photonicDog.
I remember when Deltarune came out. It was Halloween 2018. I was in the last year of uni. I was doing my dissertation, which was very stressful because basically if I didn't ace this dissertation, which don't worry, I did, but if I didn't, I was going to get a grade that was pretty terrible for my degree, which was going to make my life significantly more difficult. So I was very stressed at the time, but I remember I had a dentist appointment on the day, and I was just, because of that, I wasn't working that day. I was just chilling in call before my dentist appointment. And I remember, I think Iris was in call, and Iris said, "Oh, hey, the Undertale account is posting." And I think it was like me and Ruby and maybe a few other people also in call. And we were like, "What? What do you mean?" And we were checking it, and it was like, oh, it's like, because the Undertale account had posted before, but it hadn't really done this like sustained Gaster-esque posting since the start, like since the release of Undertale. So we were all go hyping up crazy, like, oh my God, it's like a new little like project coming out. It's like the Undertale alarm clock coming out. And then suddenly there was just a drop to this survey program. And we downloaded it and we were talking about it, like, making the vessel. So very casually, like, oh, haha, like, setting this and that. And then I think the moment that it went, "Your name is Chris," and woke up, we were like, oh, holy shit, this is a game. This is like a whole game. And then that just kind of kept getting echoed as we were walking through Hometown individually and, going through the classroom, going into the dark world, meeting Susie, meeting Rousey. We were like, holy shit, this is a whole new game that Toby just dropped. And he didn't even say it was a game. I think I had to leave after like half an hour and go to my dentist appointment. And the entire time while they were like fiddling around with metal implements in my mouth, I was just thinking, oh my god, what is that? What is that? Who, Susie, the clam girl, Susie, guess the follower, fun value, Susie, don't forget. That was the don't forget bit, obviously not yet, but I think I finished the chapter when I got back. We were all deafened at this point because we realized it was a game. We wanted to not spoil each other at our different paces, but I got to the end of it, and I just sort of knew that this was already better than Undertale. Not because, it's newer or flashier, but because it had this coherence, this mature coherence where it knew what it wanted to be and it knew what it was doing, and it wasn't just all over the place. It knew the story it was telling. And Susie's arc, I think hit me much more strongly than maybe any character in Undertale. And yeah, I think when Deltarune released and we saw what was happening, wouldn't have been too long since we started our first major artistic project after that. And I wouldn't say that it was entirely not because of Deltarune, that there was a significant amount of inspiration in the air at the time. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then one other thing was, because I have been following Undertale secrets very closely, because I'm that kind of wiki diving bitch. So yeah, I was very aware of the don't forget 3 people in the picture. Clown Girl says you're gonna meet Susie real soon. She's my neighbor, kind of thing. So when the song played at the end of the credits, and right after Chris held up the knife, and it was said, and it played Don't Forget. As soon as it played for Don't Forget, I remember my brain just blasting, holy shit, how long has he been planning this? Anyway, Toby Fox is a scoundrel of a man, ? And if I ever get my hands on him, we're going to have a long talk, and then I'm going to probably give him my thanks, and I'll go on my way.
The next story is from Harriet.
So, reflecting on Deltarune, when it came out about 7 years ago, Emmett and I were pretty new to North Carolina. We'd moved here about a year and a bit before, and we didn't really know a lot of folks. We were both kind of really wrapped up because Emmett was getting a new career, and I was at my second year in law school. And it was just kind of a stressful time, really. We were both, kind of feeling the pressure of needing to work through the day. And I'd had some tragedy recently that I'll get into in a moment. But we had seen the news about something Undertale related coming out pretty early that morning. And I was in school, so my schedule was kind of all over the place. I was maybe done by 2 o'clock. But the nice thing about it was I found this survey program and thought, well, if Toby Fox put his name on it, I'll play it. I don't really care if it shoots my dick off or whatever. But I got I got to the part where you make a little character, and it's kind of Undertale style, but clearly being very cagey about that. But pretty shortly afterward, when Toriel showed up, I was like, okay, I'm going to Alt F4 right now and wait for Emmett to get off of work so we can play this together. And he did. We got home. We played through the whole thing in one sitting. Thankfully, it wasn't very long, but, great game. It's a great game. It was, Emmett and I, Undertale was very important to us. It was something we did very early in our relationship. And, we really loved the characters. This was, it was a good time for this kind of thing to come out for us in particular, because we were both feeling this kind of pressure of big changes. kind of feeling isolated in a place where we just were trying to get our feet up under us, and having a little something extra like this was great. It was also not very long after I had some pretty terrible news. My aunt, and this is a bit sad, so feel free to skip or whatever, but my aunt committed suicide because she had been caught. Basically, she got caught for stealing some money. It was a pretty good bit, actually, and found out she might face consequences and shot herself. And it was very sad and very sudden, and not the kind of thing that we'd been really dealing with in my family for quite some time. But my cousin, whose name is Spencer, he's a very sweet boy, and at the time was 9 years old, and we couldn't tell him any of all that. So all he really got to find out at the time was that, his mom wasn't coming back from Georgia. And, he took it about as well as you can for a kid that age. He still had his dad at the time. He's since passed away. But this was a little bit like when Deltarune came out. It was a little bit well after that. It'd been a few months. We'd had the funeral and, cried it through and all of that. But something about the end of the the song at the end of Deltarune Chapter 1 was really affecting to me. When the light is running low and the shadows start to grow and the places that seem like fantasy. There's a light inside your soul that's still shining in the cold, with the truth, the promise in our hearts. Don't forget, I'm with you in the dark. I always thought of Spencer with that, because he needs somebody with him in the dark. And he had a lot of folks with him in his corner, and I live kind of a long way away, but I've always made an effort to keep in touch, too. But not that the game is at all about that, I think, other than Spencer's kind of a weird kid, and so is Chris. But it's what always comes to mind for Chapter 1. Anyway, cool project.
The next story is from Dare.
In October of 2018, I was in a really dark place. I was in my first and only semester of college, and between running out of my meds and having a terrible therapist, my mental health was in the pit. I was alone in a filthy and unfurnished dorm halfway through Trump's first term, with my partner crashing at my sister's place halfway across the city. I was ignoring my classes, just kind of rotting in my dorm. I opened my group chat one day to find everyone freaking out about the Gaster tweets, and we were jittering with excitement about what it could be. I was only about a year escaped from my never be game over days, which, for the unaware, was basically a Kojima QAnon minus the fascism, where everyone was wildly theorizing about the Phantom Pain's unlockable secret chapter that we all thought was definitely real, you guys. I swear, guys, I swear! So when the Undertale account started teasing something new, I tried really hard to temper my expectations. Gaster says he has some questions. It'll probably be a Google questionnaire for like merch or something. Maybe it'll be a graphic novel about Gaster to celebrate the spooky month. So when the 24 hours passed and we were met with that website and the 24-hour public safety posting pause policy, we actually locked the group chat. I, by this point, was extremely excited. You accept everything that will happen from now on hit me like a truck, especially when it was repeated in the installer. Given the month and all this contextualization, and Toby's first big project being the Halloween hack, which was getting a critical reappraisal at the time, I was certain we were in for an Undertale Halloween hack or spooky side story or something. When I finally booted up the survey program, it was exactly what I was expecting, but no less enticing for it. Creating my own little frisk at Gaster's behest made my skin crawl. I agonized over every choice, even the legs where I spent a good few minutes trying to tell what the difference was. I laughed my ass off as pain was listed as a favorite flavor. As I neared the end and entered my name, and then my name again, and got mocked for it, which I'm still mad about, Wing, I was expecting it to suddenly close or have a message that my answers have been recorded and more will come later. Maybe a pop-up would happen on my computer later, which is why it had that 24-hour thing going, so people wouldn't spoil the jump scare. When we woke up in Chris's shoes, I was fucking gobsmacked. It's a demo for Undertale 2! And we're playing an older... Frisk? Kara? Combination? That Frisk Asriel fusion comic is pretty big, so maybe Toby is taking some inspiration from that? When we got the car ride cutscene that mirrors the end of Undertale, driving past all our friends, I was certain that was the end of the demo. Undertale 2, releasing in 2 years on the game's 5th anniversary. But there's so many new faces. Maybe it's an AU? When Susie burst into the classroom, I was excited and confused, remembering the Susie with a ZY stuff that was updated in Undertale not long ago. When she went to bite our face off in the hallway, I remembered, oh right, this is a horror game, I forgot. I wonder where it's gonna go from here. When we went into the closet, okay, this is where the demo ends. And then it kept going. When we walked up to the cloaked figure and got told the prophecy, okay, this is where the demo ends. And then it kept going. When Lancer crashed in, okay, this is where it ends. Okay, no, after the fight is where it ends. Okay, after this first field of combat, okay, what's the big idea? Is this a full fucking game released for free? It wasn't until seeing the fast travel door, the door to Sans' room in Undertale, that it finally sank in that the Gaster stuff wasn't just for the introduction. There's something really fishy going on here, and I just don't know what. Over the course of the game, I fell in love with every single character. And while this will sound kinda libby in retrospect, the ending where you have to fight the king, where Undertale's pacifism is rejected in favor of a more useful but grim acknowledgement that some people are beyond redemption, all of that ending with your buddy Lancer gathering all the underlings and launching a coup, I don't know. It felt deeply relevant and empowering at the time. Susie, Ralsei, Lancer, Chris, all the new cast immediately became some of my all-time faves. Even with just this, I was feeling like it stood on its own. I was questioning by the end, however, how all this tied back to the context of Halloween, or at least horror, that the entire build-up was building to. The game's AU nature sank in when I hit the discovery that all of the Dark World had been, effectively, a crossover fanfiction between all of the mediums and characters Chris and Susie had access to there, which actually prompted one of my first ever video essays back in the day. The fact that the game is an AU, the Dark World was a crossover fanfic made by two passionate, bored teenagers. It spoke to a deep love from Toby for fanworks, which made sense, seeing as he got started with the Halloween hack and as a fan musician for Homestuck until he was brought on officially and defined the comic's sound. It was really sweet, and when I went upstairs to end the game satisfied with this little appreciative commentary on Undertale's fandom response of character remixing and OC creation and AU milling, the game got 3 final hits in on me. First, Chris drawing the knife, grinning and getting a red glint in their eye, taken over by the spirit of Kara, seemingly. The entire game had been a commentary on the fandom's response to Undertale, and now we were being punished for the popularity of the genocide route. All of those good memories and creativity, overshadowed by disconnection and completionist FOMO. Second, the full vocals ending credits, which made me cry like a fucking baby, and still do to this day. The production values had already been off the charts compared to Undertale, but I didn't see this coming, and its hopeful yet haunting tone, especially with how threatening it felt in the wake of the final scene of the game, had it echoing in my head for months afterwards. And third, finally, the title drop. Complete with the window text changing. Deltarune Chapter 1. More was to come. This was just a small sampling, a teaser, and it was already just shy of the full length of Undertale itself. The game left me absolutely reeling, and I was certain nobody would listen to the request to not post for 24 hours. But to my surprise, most people did. I didn't see any Deltarune posting outside of people spreading the word about its existence and very loudly bitten tongues. When we finally all took the muzzles off, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Everyone was so excited, everyone picked up on different stuff I never even noticed. Like, what do you mean there's an evil clown living under the castle? What do you mean, well, there's a man here? It was a shot of adrenaline into a fandom that already struggled to stay leashed at the best of times. It was insane. It was delightful. It was part of what fully pushed me into going for online creative pursuits. It pushed me to finally admit I couldn't hack college and had to redistribute my energy into changing direction. It's something I still look back on fondly today. I've been in the world of Deltarune for almost all of my adult life at this point. Less than a year passed between my turning 18 and the release of Deltarune. It's still going to this day, and at this rate may still be in progress until I'm nearly 30. This beautiful little game has defined so much of my interests, direction, and bonds in my adult life. I can't imagine what my life would look like if it never released, or what it will look like when it's complete, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
The next story is from Tempest 2K.
So, October 31st, 2018. This was about a month before my first job. This was about a year and 2 months before I would move from the place I lived most of my life. And about a year and 6 months before I would drop out of college. I did not have any Halloween plans, not in 2018, not in October of 2018. I had definitely been aware of the social media lead up to survey program. I don't remember what I thought of it, but I know that I definitely was very excited about it, and like anyone else, I had no idea what to expect. So when a survey program that said accept everything that happens from now on, I mean, I knew instantly that my life was going to be changed forever. And I was right. I played Deltarune as you might expect someone who wanted to be a little subversive as an Undertale fan might. I played exclusively with violence because I was told at the start of the game, your choices don't matter. And I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, so I could just do violence and it doesn't mean anything. There's no effect on the world in this one. That's interesting. That's strange coming off of Undertale, but that's interesting. And so I played my first playthrough just using the actual attacks, and I felt very satisfied by that. And of course, I completed Chapter 1 not knowing that there were any consequences or gameplay differences, because nobody did. Nobody could have known. You couldn't compare notes until, 6 hours after it dropped, because everybody was playing it instead of talking about it. I would have definitely talked about it with my friends, but God, that was so long ago. How could I remember that? That's all I really have to say. I'm Tempest 2K, and this is my submission to survey program files. I don't know what it is. I don't know what you're doing with this. You can use this for anything. I'm going to include that part in the recording, that you can use this for anything.
Thanks, Tempest. I did. I used it for my freaking podcast. The next story is from Aria.
So, for context, I live in Australia, so I didn't end up realizing Deltarune was a thing until the afternoon of the 1st of November, because of how time zones work and also just being a school student. The day before it was Halloween, and I went to a costume party, a Halloween party organized by a friend, dressed literally as fucking Sans. I had a generic skeleton costume I was going to try and wear beneath it, but I forgot it at home, so I was just wearing a blue hoodie and sweatpants and blue slippers with no fucking skeletal parts to it at all. So I feel like I kind of cursed it into existence. I was already kind of suspicious because honestly I think the first time I sort of heard the rumblings of the ghastly tweets and shit was just Underlev doing all that, repeating all the information, and I thought that was just bait or something. And when I didn't think it was going to be a whole new game. I at most the Super Smash Brothers Ultimate Direct that was going to be on November 1st, and I thought because of time zones oh, that's totally what's going to be happening. It's totally just all the tease for Sans being in Smash. And then I waited for a bit, and then so I didn't pay it much attention, but I have a notebook where I was writing, an old notebook near one of the pages in the back. It's just full of ramblings about just oh, he's totally coming to Smash. Sans totally going to come into Smash. It's this, and all of this is happening on the same day. He's coming. It's going to be crazy. And then I kind of forget about it. And the next day I wake up, I'm having a bad day at school. I come home early, and then I just sort of open YouTube on my mum's laptop. And then I just see a Merg video. It's Undertale 2 real, Undertale 2 is just the frame of Susie and Chris falling down. I was yeah, this is probably just another fan game. And then he starts ramping, and then I click the video and he starts going on about yeah, this is a brand new project from Toby Fox. I don't know what's happening. I'm just okay, is this real? And then I remember looking up Deltarune on Google, and then just like a wall of like news pages, all with like the fucking gonna make a vessel, just like as every like image for the headliner. I look at all of it, and then I just look at it all, take it in for like half a second. I can't fucking believe it. And then I just scream. And then I just played the whole fucking thing in one sitting and then pester all my friends about it who already knew about it because they actually had access to the internet. Well, what was also like so special about it is the fact that it was a free demo. It was free. I was like a 12-year-old with no income. I wasn't allowed a Steam account, or I didn't have my own computer, so I just got by playing Flash games and things, and just Undertale was entirely like just YouTubers and like comic dub farm content farm channels to me for a long time. So to actually be able to interact with the game and have my own experience with it was, despite like not having any money or not having a Steam account, was it meant so much to me. My bloody, like, I would have been like 13 at the time, I think. Wow.
The next story is from Skyplayer.
I've been struggling with this. I've gone back and forth on a lot of different ways to say that I don't remember much from when Deltarune Chapter 1 was released. I did my best to research myself. I read old tweets and my Discord messages and such from around that time, from October 2018. There was nothing notable. Just some kid playing with a new toy, spending all day online talking to strangers about fandom stuff. No Halloween plans to disrupt. No unlocked memories, no life-altering catalysts to set off like maybe other certain pieces of media. I've had a conversation on Twitter between myself and the woman I now live with, and neither of us can even really recall knowing each other back then. The old logs just look to me like a bunch of strangers, a bunch of kids. A video game asked us to accept everything that would happen to them from then on, and we did. We all spent a couple more years just being children. Then we chased that pointed tail into the forest, and 2020 cracked a Cheshire grin and made us all into vessels for something new to inhabit. Each memory before that feels like it belongs to someone else. My real experience with Deltarune Chapter 1 came last month, when I replayed it as an adult in a group call with my friends and my partner by my side. Thank you.
The next story is from Paravellex.
I was in my senior year of college in fall 2018, and had been planning to spend the afternoon working on some research. Right before I intended to head to campus, I checked Twitter and saw the link to the survey program. I downloaded it, laughed at these spoopy terms and conditions, and booted it up, figuring that it would be a quick little fun thing that I could knock off before getting down to work. Suffice to say, I did not get any work done that day. I had 3 roommates, and 2 of them and myself were big Undertale fans. We made the 4th guy promise to play it back in 2016, and it was kind of a running joke that something else always seemed to take priority in the media backlog. When Chapter 1 dropped, we all had a good laugh about how he stalled for so long that an entire sequel was developed and released in the interim. He still hasn't played out the game.
Our next story is from Ciat. The audio's a little glitchy, but I wanted to keep it in.
On October 31st, 2018, I was coming back from my shift at Top and Barrel when I read the news about the survey program. Saying that I was surprised would be like an understatement. For some reason, I never expected Toby to ever release anything again after Undertale, but I was proven wrong, I guess. I had to wait until the Friday. It was a long week, so I went as media blackout as possible, but of course, some things leaked. The designs for Roxie and Susie and the cast of Undertale in a new town and setting got me like really excited and hyped. I remember I told my wife I would be unavailable for a few hours on Friday. She was like, sure, whatever. Like, she was amused. I still remember like the wonder of being then denied any choice and just told you are Chris now. I really felt like Toby was already playing with me. Like it was a friend earnestly trying to make me smile or be surprised or laugh. What surprised me the most about the like comparing Deltarune to Undertale was the shift from a single person interacting with their environment kind of adventure to one shared with close friends and family. I do welcome the change, by the way. And I feel like Toby really aced it. Like he really succeeded because I really feel like Susie and Ralsei, in their own way, are my dear friends and real. I could never share Toby's work with my friends. I simply had a different kind of taste. But I don't think that speaks negatively about the game in any way. It simply makes the experiences I had more personal, and I think that's a positive in my mind. I do treasure it. And from then on, like release after release, I've gone into many adventures into the dark world with my friends, and those adventures we experienced together are still with me, and like Undertale, they still inform the way I love and teach and live. And I cannot thank Toby enough. And these adventures will accompany me forever. And thank you, really.
This next story is from Roxie Puddles. It contains some discussion of substance use.
I don't remember the day Deltarune released, but I can try to put it in context. Online, I was entrenched in fandom. I was mostly hanging out with a small group of people that felt like they would be lifelong friends, who would all have me blocked on everything by this date a year from now. I was writing. Offline, I was partying up and down the California coast, following wherever people that played fighting games were going. I was getting blackout drunk, crying and pissing in the middle of nowhere, and throwing up into the bay. I was not on hormones, and I was deeply in denial about a lot of things. Humans forget things so easily. I think it's part of why so many people feel such a strong impulse to hold on to their memories of childhood, and especially their teenage years. The things that happen to you feel so consequential. Your first relationship, your first time having sex, fighting with your parents, struggling in school, it's all stuff that feels like your entire world when it's happening to you. I have spent a lot of my life drinking, doing drugs, and trying to forget things. The things I've failed to forget, I've spent years trying to keep a secret from everyone. October 31st, 2018 is one of the things that I forgot. But it was an important step in a very long journey towards me wanting to remember and wanting less of myself to be a secret. Every new chapter has me remembering and sharing just a little bit more.
The next story is from Arashi 500.
Deltarune's release was like most Halloweens. I was handing out candy at my parents' place when the survey dropped. Social media was suddenly alight with people freaking out as vaguely as they could. I'd been a fan of Toby's since before Undertale, if you know you know, and had had a chance to get on that train early on, but foolishly put it on the back burner at the time. So I knew I wasn't going to let that happen twice. I ended up playing through the first chapter in a single sitting, which, while not much of an accomplishment for most, is actually quite rare for me and my snail-slow pacing. It was clear from the onset that this was going to be special, and it really has yet to let me down.
The next story is from Sophia Goodnight. So when Undertale's social media went dark the day before Halloween, I was kind of excited. I was like, okay, Toby's up to something. And then the next day, survey program dropped. And I was like, okay, this seems like a virus. I'm doing it like everyone else did. I downloaded it. I was so into it. I was so into every step of it. I was enthralled. And then I got to the actual game. And I got to the Field of Hopes and Dreams, and I forgot all that cool stuff I loved and was like, oh, it's just Undertale 2. That's cool, I'll play it later. I closed it and went to some Halloween party and didn't play Deltarune again until Chapter 2. All right, we've got our last story coming up. It's a long one. It's about 15, 16 minutes, but please stick around and stay after the end for the outro. And if you're interested in hearing my story, reluctantly, I'll share it. This story's from ValantWynn.
On October 31st, 2018, I was a junior in college in the first trimester of the year. I had recently changed majors because, frankly put, I got really scared off because of my professors I was dealing with for that major, in addition to my college advisor for that degree basically telling me it was a waste of my time. I will never forget that. But regardless here, at this point, I was beginning a new portion of my studies. It was basically in a similar vein of the degree I was previously going towards, and I was able to transfer basically all of my credits over to that, which was really nice. Regardless here, on that day, I was expected to go to my Buddhism study class, which I also had a complicated relationship with that professor. In this way, my routine at that point in my life was that I was waking up probably about 10 a.m. every day. If I didn't have a class earlier than that, I would get up, get dressed, go get lunch from the cafeteria, and I would come back up to my room, eat, and kind of just get ready for the day, right? One of the things that I was actively doing was checking social media a lot. I mean, I am a Gen Z, a millennial. I believe I'm on the cusp of it. Regardless here, like, ultimately, I'm checking Twitter and Tumblr just to see what's going on here. And frankly speaking here, I think it was early enough in the day that I had caught this. I actually don't know the full timeline here, but I know this much. Before my class for the day had started, I think it was literally after I'd finished eating lunch, I had noticed that Toby Fox had tweeted out some very cryptic tweets to the world linking to what he described as a survey. And this fascinates me very much because, I mean, one, Toby Fox has such a grip over my interests. I am a huge fan of Undertale, and I will probably always be a huge fan of Undertale. And of course, I want to see what Toby Fox wants from me, from us, the community. So yeah, sure. Two, I'm a huge ARG person. This feels like something out of an ARG. And so, of course, I download it. And I open up, and it's saying that I will accept everything from here on out. And that's awesome. And I say, of course, yeah, I do accept everything from here. And the game opens up. I have no idea what I'm getting into, but the game is asking me to build a vessel. Strange as fuck. I'm getting extreme Gygus from Earthbound vibes here. It feels like I'm in a fever dream, and it's fantastic. I build my vessel, and I frankly don't remember what any portion of that vessel was. I think I made the color green. I think I might have made the blood color C. Who knows? Unfortunately, without doing some data editing, I'm probably not going to be able to find it out. Regardless here, I build my vessel, I submit it, and I'm like, yippee! And then the voice tells me that my vessel has been discarded, and that in this world, my choices don't matter. And I'm already stunned because I have no idea what this means. Of course I don't. No one did. And then I'm in the room, Chris's room, and Toriel is there. Toriel from Undertale is there and is telling me to wake up. And I'm just sent into kind of information overload, effectively. Because one, why the fuck is Toriel here? Two, who is this? Who is Chris? Why does Chris look like a combination of Frisk and Shara? Is this some sort of sequel to Undertale that I'm starting to play here? What is going on? Nevertheless, I proceed. And in this way, I take the ride to school, I see the world with all these familiar faces that I've seen before in Undertale. We go to school, I see Alphys, and there's so many more questions that are just being raised and not answered, and it's, frankly, it's crazy. It genuinely is absurd what's going on, but I'm invested. I'm really invested. And then walks in Susie, and Susie and Chris step out, and Chris gets slammed into a wall, into lockers, by the stereotypical bully, and then we fall into the dark world. And you know, everything is just happening so fast, and I'm barely able to process it at all, but I'm really excited. And by the point that I beat Lancer for the first time, and Ralsei has now joined the party, I've already made up my mind that I'm going to skip class for the day. This is really funny because ultimately I had already skipped a class for this class once before this trimester. It was because I had accidentally injured myself, and I was so exhausted from trying to take care of myself after it that I said I didn't care. So, like, I just said, whatever. It didn't really matter to me. I was doing well in the class. I didn't really care to see the professor right now. I have more important things to do. So I lock in. I am now playing Deltarune. Definitely at this time, as I'm going through Chapter 1, I know that I am talking to one of my best friends about it, because I was one of the people that got Undertale in my high school friend group. Like, I had sat down this best friend for, I think, over the course of like 3 different hangouts as we played Undertale together, and it was beautiful. And literally they took up the name of one of the characters from Undertale for themselves after beating Undertale and also finding out their gender, right? So I'm like telling them that this is a wild experience, and I don't really remember the reaction, but I know that I'm talking about this. And as I'm playing here, I'm trying to be a pacifist. Undertale has taught me that pacifism is the way to go in this sort of game. I mean, the choice is here, right? I can be violent or I can be pacifistic, and of course I'm going to try to be pacifistic. That's what got me the best outcome in Undertale. So I actually have to, like, try to tame Susie. That caught me off guard. What's really funny about this, about the nature that you don't really control Susie until the end of Chapter 1, is that I was shocked that Toby Fox had done something in game development that I had been wanting to do for years at that point. I had really wanted to have a game, an RPG, where you're in control of a main character, but the other character you play as, quote unquote, they don't always listen to you. They're their own person with their own agency. So, like, I was a little bit taken aback. Of course I don't think Toby Fox stole my idea. I don't think he went into my brain, picked it apart, and said, ooh, game idea. No. I just thought it was a really funny coincidence, and ultimately I think the execution on it was great. But yeah, I ultimately keep playing, and I'm getting really endeared to these characters. Of course I am. They're really well written. It does take me a while to actually really get into Susie, and if I'm kind of being honest, I don't really think I hit peak Susie enjoying until Chapter 2, which would be another 3 years later. But I really do like her arc very much. She gained actual friends, and I was endeared by the end when, you know, Chris, Susie, and Ralsei in Card Castle have attempted to defend Lancer and take King on, and it's because of their kindness that the entire Card Kingdom just swoops in and just deals with King. It's quite beautiful. And then fucking Ralsei just takes off his hat, and he's Asriel, and it's like, what? Huh? but they don't really touch upon that. We gotta close the Dark Fountain. And then it's revealed that the Dark Fountain, they were just in the abandoned classroom playing with toys. At this point in Deltarune, I didn't quite know what to make about this, because it's not explicitly spelled out just yet. There's enough hints in the room to really discern what just happened, but it was very interesting, if not confusing to me at the moment. But regardless here, after this, you spend an entire afternoon in Hometown, and you actually are able to talk to all of the characters from Undertale that are still around. Look, I'm going to be real here. I probably did actually do the Sans thing just like everyone else did when they saw Sans at the convenience store. I was actually really more taken aback that he was in Grillby's, and Grillby's was now just Sans's restaurant. And, you know, we didn't really know it was a grocery store at that point, but, like, still, it was like, wow, what? And then it's just their actual house. It's just Sans and Papyrus' house, and Papyrus is just mysteriously not really here, but you could, like, meet with him tomorrow. Again, it's just, these things are not elaborated upon. It's so wild, and it just keeps going. Like, Undyne's a cop, which kind of sucks, of course it does, and Alphys is technically new in town. Suddenly, any idea that, like, this was a sequel is gone. And again, at the time, like, I had no idea what to make of it. I definitely thought, I probably at some point after playing Chapter 1 came to sort of the conclusion that it's like, okay, well, it's just an alternate universe. I probably even came to that conclusion while in the middle of the post Card Kingdom like section, but like it was still baffling. But you know, whatever. I go home, I talk to Toriel, I sleep, and I'm like, okay, it's all done. And then Chris literally rips out their soul, puts it in the birdcage, and pulls out the knife, and that's how it ends. And that's the cliffhanger for 3 years, and we didn't even know. But then it reveals itself. This is Deltarune Chapter 1. And my mind is blown. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was also definitely talking to my partner at the time about this. I was also, like, I probably had told her that, like, Toby Fox has come out with something new, and this is crazy. And I know that she played it, and I know that, like, she definitely had, like, whiplash as well. It was definitely crazy. In fact, literally after Chapter 1 came out, I don't remember how quickly merch had actually come out for Chapter 1, but I know it was pretty quick afterwards because I had bought the entire bundle, which was the 2 t-shirts and I think the hat, Roxie plush. God, it's been too long. I don't remember what the combo bundle was, but it was like a full thing of all. It was like I know it was at least the original beginning shirt, the beginning poster, and the Susie shirt. I kept the poster and the beginning shirt, and I gave the Susie Rudebuster shirt to my girlfriend. I mean, I had literally told her, I did ask her at this point, like, hey, do you want this shirt? And she said, yeah, here's my shirt size. And so she got that. But it was just such a flabbergasting thing. And at that time, no one knew what came next, really. But I was hooked. And if I am being honest here, I do like Chapter 1. I like it a good amount. I know I've been saying it got me hooked. It got me really interested. I agree. I don't actually really think it's until Chapter 2 that I got, like, super hooked. It did not become, like, fixation worthy until Chapter 2. I think it really is because Chapter 1 had thematics. And the overall medieval kind of fantasy aesthetic, I don't really vibe with all that much. And so, you know, in Chapter 2, when the Cyber City came out, I was like, oh. And then ultimately, from there, I just got more and more interested. But Chapter 1 had piqued my real curiosity. And I know I was talking to everyone because once I had finished, I know that I was in group servers as well, like being like, what the hell just happened? That really was my entire October 31st, 2018. And God damn it, Toby, you done it again. You did it again.
Alright, I said I'd tell my story, so here it is. Back on October 31st, 2018, I was working in Overwatch League, and BlizzCon started the next day, November 1st. So that was like the big event. I had to go. We were, a number of potential coaches and players for our Overwatch League roster would be there to interview. So I had that flight early next morning, and then Toby drops this thing on me, and it's like, oh, come on. So I kind of rushed through Deltarune Volume 1, right? And I had that initial fake out of thinking it was post-pacifist Undertale, and then I realized it wasn't, and I realized it was a whole game, like so many people here, and then I realized, oh no, this is a huge time investment, and I've got all this, I got to pack. So I did beat it that first day. I rushed through it. I tried to read all the text I could. I was really excited, but I didn't really get to, I didn't get locked in on Deltarune at the time because I was so busy with work and also with my previous podcast, the Perfectly Generic podcast, which was about a certain webcomic that we won't mention by name. If you want to hear more discussion about that, there's 95 episodes back on archive.org. I was locked in on that. I was, focused on that and meeting some incredible folks through that show. And so I had that flight to LA. The next day, I met James Roach for the first time. Fantastic guy. Really awesome to meet him in person after having interviewed him for the show before. And so Deltarune was kind of just off my mind the next day. Like, my whole life was just totally changed about that. And, the chapter 2 didn't come out for a number of years after that. So Deltarune was not front and center for me. And that's part of why I wanted to ask this question of, connecting with the past and connecting with people who had some with more intense connections, some with, who were really obsessed from day one with Deltarune, and some who played it on release and then it took a couple years for the bug to really get them. I really appreciate the stories that all of you have shared with me about your experiences when Deltarune Chapter 1 released. It makes me reflect about the importance of this game being episodic. Whether it's 11 hours or 11 years, Deltarune will be waiting, as the Forgotten Man says in Chapter 3. And isn't that exciting and interesting? That we're getting older alongside a game about growing up? When Toby Fox had the dream that inspired Deltarune back in 2011, he was just 19 years old. I was just 19 years old. I'd published my first writing on the internet on the SCP Foundation, and now he and I are both 33. How much has your life changed since Deltarune Chapter 1 released, and how different will it be when the game finishes? The milestones of these releases, this ongoing work, it allows us to do more than just go to our conspiracy boards and theorize, and it allows us to do more than just digest a completed work. We get to reflect and ruminate on the themes, the characters, and the creativity surrounding Deltarune as it goes on. And that's what I hope to discuss on future episodes of this podcast. I'd really appreciate it if you joined me as we look deeper into Deltarune. The music during the episode is by Highwell. This outro music is by Highwell and Christada, and you can find links to both albums in the description on Bandcamp. You can find this podcast wherever your podcasts are found. It should be on Spotify and Apple Music. This is episode 1, so there might be some weirdness as the feeds start to propagate. But you can also find it at gruppeshrike.net. That's GRUPPESHRIKE.net. It's group like the German spelling and Shrike like the bird. I'm really looking forward to not just this podcast, but highlighting more amazing creativity on gruppeshrike.net as we move into the future. And speaking of the future, this show has one too. This show is going to have a new episode every 2 weeks until Deltarune's over or we run out of stuff to talk about. So that means episode 2 will come out on Wednesday, August 20th. We've got a guest, we've got a topic set up. I'm really excited to get into the weeds of data mining in Deltarune and really get to the fringes of how Toby tells stories through the medium and appeals to both theorists and serious character writers alike with the way that he threads these mysteries throughout his work. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget, we're with you in the dark, and see you in 2 weeks, everybody.
Strike Amalgamated General Productions GmbH.